can you just tell us about the operation and how these 4 individuals that were taken on October the 7th were recovered?
Thanks, Ali. Yes, indeed, they were abducted on the October 7th in the early hours of the morning from the Nova Music Festival. So it was a festival where thousands of Israelis were partying, enjoying and having a good time. And Hamas, when they breached into the fence, they ran into the festival, killing. They went on a killing spree. I think over 300 people were murdered there and abducted several others. The 4 that we rescued at 11 o'clock, around 11 o'clock this morning, Noa Argamani, Almog Meir Jan, Shlomi Ziv and Andrey Kozlov were at that party. And indeed, the operation over the last 8 months, we've invested extensive efforts in order to try and bring home hostages. We've been following these 2 locations where Noa Argamani and the 3 others were being held at 2 separate locations for several weeks. And we created an operational plan, devised a plan specifically to bring the hostages home. We waited for optimal operational conditions to create a reality where we'll be able to bring them home alive. We'd been watching it for several days, and today the opportunity came to hand. And indeed, we are very happy to bring them home. And there's a very, I'd say, jubilant atmosphere today in Israel. People cheering on the beach, dancing outside of the hospital where we've taken them. So it's a very good result. We're happy with the result of the rescue operation. And
Lieutenant Colonel Lerner, how is their how are their spirits? How are they doing?
I think, first of all, if you can imagine being held in the clutches of a terrorist organization, not knowing what day it is, not knowing what the situation is, not knowing what's going on in Israel. So there's a lot of questions that they are asking. Mm-hmm. I think one of the first reports that Noa Argamani said she's happy that she can finally speak Hebrew again. So I think there's a lot of individuals, and obviously these personal stories will be coming out over the days as the days develop. I think we need to give them time first to try and understand the ordeal that they went through, and to try and give them the opportunity to tell their story, how they experience it. The IDF, of course, from our perspective, and it was a very complex joint effort together with our internal security apparatus and the National Counterterrorism Police Special Forces. We have one officer that was killed in the rescue operation on the extraction because Hamas positioned these hostages in the civilian arena, in people's homes. And in the extraction, we came under extensive fire from alleyways, from the roads, RPG fire, all of these types of things. And this was a very extensive battle on the extraction as well.
Well, you also, Lieutenant Lerner, I've also just been informed that Reuters has also been told that at least 94 Palestinians have been killed in multiple strikes in the area as part of the hostage rescue on Saturday. What is your response to that?
So I don't accept anything that Hamas is putting out as...
that is Reuters, though.
Yeah, Reuters are quoting Hamas officials. I saw it as well, just as we were coming on. This is if they are fighting in the streets in broad daylight and launching RPGs from homes, and if they're holding the hostages in homes where families are residing, then there's a challenge. This is precisely what Hamas does. They put people the Palestinian people, first of all, in harm's way, before putting anything else into consideration. So I would say we need to be cautious at accepting Hamas's figures. Okay. I would say our responsibility is to get the hostages out. We wouldn't need to operate in Gaza at all if Hamas would release the hostages. And I think that is something we would much rather prefer.
Understood. How do you think the war is going at the moment from your perspective? Benjamin Netanyahu made it very clear that he wanted to see Hamas destroyed. We now hear that obviously President Biden came out with this peace plan and was trying to push the government into that. How do you think the war is going in terms of your aim of destroying Hamas, which is an ideology as well as a people and an infrastructure?
So I think we have to understand that the entire war effort is designed and crafted to bring hostages home. That's first of all, in the aftermath of this morning, there are still 120 hostages that Hamas continue to hold this morning. And that is top priority. Second, I would say absolutely, the war effort is intended to dismantle Hamas as a governing authority and a terrorist entity. They can't be trusted with the powers of government. We saw what they did with the powers of government. They built, over the last 17 years, a terrorist army that infiltrated into Israel and came into our houses and abducted people from music festivals. So Hamas have to go. That's a clear objective. I would say, though, and as you pointed out, President Biden, when he put forward a plan, he put forward, as he said, the Israeli plan. And so Israel has shown willingness to negotiate, and we understand that there are only two ways to bring hostages home, either through negotiations or through special operations. Hamas can end this war today. They can release the hostages, and they can unconditionally surrender, and we can all try and get back to building a more stable security situation for everybody.
Just briefly, do you think that the Israeli government in its current constitution is secure?
I'm a military man. It's not for me to judge.
That is true. I'm being a bit unfair.
It's not for me to judge the government. The government has their responsibilities. The military has.
That is being a bit unfair. Let me be unfair on my final question to you, which is the one I'm asking my callers, Lieutenant Colonel Lerner, and it's this. Would recognition of a Palestinian state now support the peacemakers or reward terrorists, in your view?
So that's also something that's much more on the political echelon, and they have to, and the politicians need to devise their plan of what they expect on the day after. Of course, I have my own personal views on this that I will keep them to myself at this stage.
Thank you very much indeed for joining me. That was Lieutenant Colonel Peter Lerner, spokesperson for the Israeli Defense Force, bringing us up to date on the hostages, the four hostages that have been thankfully recovered alive from Gaza.